Chapter 1. The beginning. It began late at night, the sun was slowly setting and the weather was clear. The wind blew across the forest, making some of the leaves fly away with the movement of the tree branches. But deep in this forest, far from everyone and everything, stood a lonesome structure made of concrete that looked like a laboratory. Inside this structure were a lot of sophisticated machines, scientists, and a strange coffin-like structure made of metal with glass on top so you could see what's inside. Heartbeat rate is steady. Breath is slow and brain function at the lowest rate possible thanks to the drug. The subject is fully okay, Sir Astol, said one of the scientists to a tall man. This person was bald with a furry brown mustache and wore black dress shoes, dress pants, and a black shirt. He had pale skin and green eyes that glowed a little with the lack of light inside the room. Tell me more about the vessel. He's still young, right? Yes, sir. He is 20 years old and was taken from a normal human family 3 years ago in the nearest town. It seems he has a strong will as well as strong body, just the type of body the larva will easily develop into without crushing it. We killed both his parents in a car accident after they came back from his first day at high school and took him here in hopes to tame him. We ran tests on him for the first year, proving that his body would be able to hold the training. Then we trained him and finally put him in the capsule. We used an A-class amnesic potion, so he should not remember his training. He has been in this capsule for more than a month and his body has finally transformed into a suitable host for the bow. Perfect. With this creature, Sir Kokabiel will be able to restart this war. We'll fight. We'll win, said Arstal to his team of brains. But as he was laughing, a woman scientist looked at him with the corner of her eyes. It's horrible, she thought to herself. I shouldn't have worked with them. I must do something to make amend. I have to free him. She finished and started to walk to one of the computers. I won't let them do it, even if it costs me my life. He will not become their toy. Full of determination, she pressed one of the buttons on the computer. Soon after, an alarm ringed and a red light started to shine in the whole lab. All the scientists started to panic and moved to the computers, trying to figure out what was going on. What is happening? Why is the water pressure dropping? Asked the head scientist, who pushed the locking button mechanism. Shut it down. Sir. The pressure is dropping too quickly. He's about to awake, yelled a scientist. I'll call the security, yelled another. As all the scientists were trying to keep what was inside the metal coffin asleep, the woman tried to flee discreetly but was stopped by Arstal, who materialized what seemed to be a spear made of light. So you're the traitor. I should have known, now died insect. As soon as he finished his sentence, he moved his spear forward and impaled the woman in the stomach. She started to cough blood before the fallen angel let her fall on the ground, bleeding to death. Sir Arstal. Please help us. He's starting to awake, yelled one of the scientists as they were trying to force the upper part of the metal capsule down. Arstal moved to it and used his enhanced strength to help the scientists, but as he watched the glasses that showed the inside of the coffin, Arstal saw something that he didn't think he would see. He saw a human hand, forcing the cover up. Even with Arstal and all the scientists, it was still too hard to hold the coffin together. How strong is this creature? Thought the fallen angel, before the coffin burst open, pushing all the scientists and Arstal to the side. Slowly the one that was imprisoned rose from his sleep, his brown hairs falling on his face and the water dripping on his chiseled chest. This creature was nearly 2 meters tall, had a chiseled body with no signs of fat at all. He was bare naked with medical equipment all over him. Taking off the mask that was measuring his breath and walking out of his coffin, the creature slowly walked to exit, but Arstal stood up and thrown a spear of light to the creature. Die! Screamed the fallen angel as the spear impaled the human in the head and sent him to the ground. Arstal chuckled and turned to the scientists. That's all. Was that thing supposed to bring victory to the great Kokabiel? But as he finished his sentence, something strange happened. He heard heartbeats. Slow, yet powerful enough to be heard heartbeats. The creature slowly stood up and as it was rising, its human body started to change. First his white skin turned blue and crackled, his hair turned blue and black with some bands of purple, his nails turned into claws, his eyes turned pure yellow and finally, a red gem appeared on his forehead. It's him! Screamed the head scientist. The most powerful weapon. The war phenomenon. Bow. As the bow finished transforming, 10 armed men entered the room and aimed for the bow, ready to open fire as soon as possible. But much to their surprise, the creature stayed still and looked at all the people that were in front of him. "Shoot him down. If we can't control it, then no one else will," yelled Arstal as he prepared another spear of light and thrown it to the bow, signaling to the other units to open fire. Bullets flew to the bow, but all of them were crushed on his skin and the light spear shattered on his chest. "It's no use. His skin is made to be as tough as dragon scales, conventional weapon won't work. We have to aim for the head." But as the soldiers tried to reload their weapons, the bow rushed to them and started to fight back. He started by punching one of the soldiers in the wall so hard that his head busted from the impact. After this, the bow jumped to two other guards and tackled them to the ground before smashing their head against the other, killing two birds in one stone. The 7 last guards started to shoot him again, but Bao started to emit what looked like an electric aura and pointed his finger at the guards. At that precise moment, electricity busted from his finger, shocking the guards to death. The smell of fried flesh filled the room as the scientists tried to find an exit, but the Bao wasn't letting any of them run away. The sound of bone crushing, flesh reaping and screams filled the room. Only Arstal remained, terrified and alone against a monstrosity. He tried to launch several spears at the Bao while screaming, "Die! Die, you monster!" But his spears were made too hastily and all they did was to lightly wound the Bao, not stopping him. Deciding he had enough, the Bao rushed forward and slammed his fist through the fallen angel chest, reaping his heart off and crushing it in his bare hands. It was done. He was the last one standing in the building, even if he had multiple wounds all over his body, thanks to the light spears. Well, at least he thought he was alone before he heard a feminine voice that sounded like a whisper. "Be Bao, come here." The Bao, intrigued by this call, rushed to the origin of this voice and found the woman that was pierced by Arstal moments before. She lost lots of blood and was on the verge of dying, but she still found the strength to smile. "I'm sorry. It's my fault that you're not human anymore. I should have tried to save you before." She handed him a piece of paper. A map. "There is a city after this forest. Go and live your life freely, Issei." "Yes. You were Issei. Don't forget it." She then fell lifeless with a smile on the cold floor in a puddle of blood. Since all hostiles were killed, Bao started to revert back into his human form. His skin became white again. The gem disappeared from his forehead and his hair turned brown again. He also fell on the ground, too tired to even move. He just wanted to rest, because even he was hard to destroy, he still needed to heal from those wounds. "Issei, is that who I am? I don't remember. For now, I'll just sleep." He tough as he fell asleep, still naked and covered in blood. After a kick nap, Issei saw that he had regenerated and was now perfectly fine. He looked at the woman again and put her lab coat on her face, making the closest thing he could to a shroud. Even if he didn't know her at all, he was free thanks to her. He then looked at the map she handed to him before she died. He needed to go to this city. He didn't know why, but he had to. After some research in the medium-sized lab, he founded pants that seemed to belong to one of the scientists, a black one. He also founded a black t-shirt that was too tight for him, but it was still the largest he founded. With new clothes on, he headed to the city to was just after the forest. If the map was correct, he would have to walk quite a long way, but he didn't care. He just wanted to go away from this lab. Kuo, Japan, the day after. Kuo was a small town near Tokyo, in Japan. Even while being small, this town was still as lively as others, and people were nice to one another. But Kuo is not famous for being lively and a rather good place to live. This town was famous for one thing, her academy. Yes, Kuo Academy was well known by citizens of other towns nearby and even peoples from other cities. This academy, that was an all-girls school before turning co-ed a few years ago, had very skilled teachers, a good dorm, and finally good equipment for students to learn in the best way possible. To sum this academy tried to always be on top, which worked out really well and brought more people to Kuo City. But, for this academy only turned co-ed recently, the female population was way higher than the male one. This fact made that most of the boys were here either to find a girlfriend or try to build a harem. Yes, most of the males in this academy were perverts that rather wanted to ogle hot chicks than to study. And it was hard to blame them. Girls in Kuo Academy were usually sexy, so it was hard for the boys to contain their hormones. It was here that Rias Gremory, a 17-year-old young lady, lived. She was a buxom teen, with a large bust, slim waist, and a large bottom. She also had a beautiful face and a perfect cream-colored skin, but her most appealing features were her crimson-red hair that went to her ankles and her blue-green eyes that seemed to hypnotize everyone that looked in them. She was 172 centimeters tall, 5 feet 8, and had long slender legs that had points to hear sex appeal. That's why she was called goddess by her fellow classmates. That always made her giggle because she was far from a goddess. In fact, she was the complete opposite. She was a demon, a pure-blooded demon princess from the Gremory family, a noble family of the underworld. As always, Rias was heading home after a long day at school. She was tired and couldn't understand how some humans could like classes that much. It was starting to get dark, but the redhead wasn't afraid. She was stronger than any human with her demonic strength. She could fight for herself and win without a scratch, even without using magic. And, speaking of the devil, a human teenager around her age appeared and called to her. He was taller than the princess, probably 180 centimeters tall, 5 feet 10, had normal physics and dirty blonde hairs. "Yo girl. What you doing here alone? It's dangerous for high schoolers this late," said the teens, which annoyed Rias. Why did she always stumble on this kind of teen who thinks that the world revolves around them? "I know it and am fully capable of defending myself, so please step aside," said Rias in an annoyed tone, but the boy didn't move a bit. "What? Girl thinks she can protect herself. Do you really think so? I really think you should come with me," he answered while moving closer to Rias. "Step aside, now," ordered Rias, clearly annoyed. "Don't order me around, bitch. I ain't your fucking toy. Girls like you should just do what they are told to and shut the fuck up," responded to the teen. He moved closer to the redhead and grabbed her chin. "I'm going to make you feel really good, the time of your life. So be a good girl and follow me, that's all you have to do. I bet this body feels really good, especially those cow tits." He finished with a perverted grin on his face. Rias looked at him straight in the eyes, took his hand off her chin and responded with a firm voice. "No. Now go away before I start to fight back." The teen looked at her, then laughed. After a few seconds, he said, between laughter, "You really think a bitch could fight me and win? You could not even beat me if I had my hands tied." He raised his fist, preparing a punch. "I didn't want to do this, but you forced me to." He armed his fist and started to do the motion, aiming for Ria's head. She was ready for the hit. After all, with her resistance, she would feel nothing from this punch. But much to her surprise, it never reached her. His fist was stopped in mid-motion, but another hand that held his forearm. Rather surprised, Rias moved her gaze up the arm of the new person. The new person, another teenager, was tall. Rias was impressed by his size. He was nearly 2 meters, 6 feet 6, tall. Going from the bottom up, the devil saw that all he wore was a black dress pant, neither shoes nor socks. His pants were covered in dirt and torn at some points. It seemed used and tore, there was even blood on it. She moved her gaze up and noticed that he had a too tight shirt on, showing his chiseled chest. His muscle wasn't as showing as other bodybuilders, but his muscles weren't just for show, they were packed with power. It seemed like he could move a mountain without breaking a sweat. After glancing at his chest and feeling her cheeks heat up, the princess shifted her gaze to the face of this boy. He had mid-long hair with spiky ends and some bangs covering his forehead. He had a handsome face, with chocolate brown eyes that matched his hair. Rias couldn't help but feel excited by his body. She was a creature of sin after all. "Whatcha want, exhib boy? Wanna play the hero? Wanna save the bitch and get her ass?" asked the one that was about to punch Rias. "Yes, I want to protect her. But I'll not only save her. I'll save all the girls in this city from you," replied the brown-haired teen in a calm yet firm voice. "Don't screw with me. It's not because you're taller than me that I'll go down easily. She's mine." After this, he tried to break free from the hand of the brown-haired teen, but it didn't matter how hard he tried, he was not able to. What's with his strength? He thought as he still tried to break free. "Useless. Now fall," said the teen, before kneeing the other in the stomach. The blonde-haired teen gasped before violently falling to the ground, passed out. Rias looked at her savior. All it took him was one hit. One hit and this guy was already passed out. How strong is he? She was surprised to feel her cheeks heat up again. She had to admit that he was kinda hot, protecting her like that. But something was bizarre with this boy. He didn't smell like a human. There was something else. ISS? Miss. Are you okay? She came back to Hearth when she heard the boy call to her. She was too focused on his smell to understand he was talking to her. Why yes? What was it? She asked, for she didn't hear the first part of his sentence. I was asking you if you were all right. You seem to be spacing out for second, he told her, his voice becoming calm and worried. Why yes. I'm fine thanks to you, a little lie. She could have done it alone, but she had to keep appearances. I don't know what I would have done without you. How may I thank you? Well, he started off, hesitating on what he should ask. But after a little time, his stomach roared, signaling that he was hungry. He blushed a little at this, which made Rias giggle. I guess that you would like to eat something. He nodded his head in approval. Well, come with me. There is a good restaurant close by. I will buy you food as a token of my gratitude. I wouldn't want to force your kindness, I'll just. Don't worry. I'm not forcing myself. I just can't let you go like this after you saved me, or I would be a horrible person. She smiled sweetly at him. This time it wasn't a lie. She wanted to thank him, even if he didn't do much. I get it. Then I'll accept Miss. He couldn't finish his sentence for he didn't ask her name. Ho. Silly me. I'm Rias Gremory, a third year in Kuo Academy, and you are? Issei. Just Issei. I don't remember anything else. Ch1 of 12 next, Chapter 2. Monster High. Azarte is back with Chapter 2. A bit longer than the last one, hope you will all like it. On with the story. Issei. Just Issei. I don't remember anything else. Rias was shocked. You don't remember anything? He shook his head from side to side. When I woke up, I didn't even remember my name, I was. Issei stopped in his sentence. I can't tell a normal human my condition. She'll run away from me if I tell her that I'm not a human. I woke up in the forest nearby, but I didn't remember a thing about me, neither why I was here. Issei hoped that this lie would be enough. He didn't want to explain all he went through to a new girl, even if she seemed to be nice to him. That must be horrible, said Rias in a sympathetic tone. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have asked, she said, genuinely sorry. She just walked on a landmine and all she could say was, I'm sorry. It's okay. I won't hold any bad feeling toward you for that, responded Issei, trying to make Rias happy again. Thank you, Issei. How about we go to the restaurant now? We wouldn't want to let you hungry for all evening, said the redhead, her cheerful tone back and a smile on her face. Issei felt weird with this smile, like he already seen it before, but couldn't find where. Must have been before my memory loss. It's not important for now. Yes ma'am, lead the way please, answered the teen, also becoming in a cheerful mood. He was glad that he met someone as kind as Rias. So they both started going to the center of the city. As they were walking, Issei saw that a lot of peoples were looking at him and Rias. Of course, he didn't have a normal physique at all, and Rias seemed to be quite famous around here. Everyone seems to look at you, Rias. You seem really famous. Well, I am famous at school you could say, said Rias while giggling. After a short walk, they finally arrived at a fast food in the middle of the city center. Issei glanced around the streets they were in, intrigued by the fact that they seemed familiar and that he was nearly able to go on his own to the fast food. Intrigued, Rias asked him. Wow, you are nearly able to go here without me. It's like you already knew where to go. I don't know, it all seems familiar. Well, maybe you lived in this part of the city before your blackout. How about we go inside? We're both hungry I think, said the demon with a smile. This smile was a truly beautiful and warm smile, but Issei was sure that he saw it before, but he couldn't point where. Why yeah, I would love to. Issei walked ahead and held the door open for the redhead, who thanked him for that. The two made their way to the cashier, and after a small wait, it was finally their turn to order. Hi. What will you take? Said the cashier, with a small smile. It was late, so she was probably tired. Eat as much as you like Issei, it's no problem. After a small hesitation, Issei ordered a lot. Like, really much. Rias was impressed by the quantity of food he took. Are you going to eat it all? Alone? Sorry, did I order too much? Was it too pricey? I shouldn't have asked for so much. No. It's not a problem. I told you, it's a small way to thank you. I just couldn't let an amnesiac walk around hungry, it was common sense. You're really nice, Rias. I'm glad I met you. People like you are scarce nowadays. He gave her a genuine smile, which made Rias blush a little. He is really nice. But why do I sense something else from him? It's like he's not totally human. Maybe a half-breed. I wonder which kind. Thought. I never smelled something like that. It smells wild, powerful, untamed. She trailed off, before returning back to reality and see that Issei already ate nearly half of his food. In a matter of minutes. Wow, you must have been really starving to eat so much so fast. Issei tried to answer but was swallowing a bunch of it the same, which caused him to choke on his food. After some coughing and few taps on the back by Rias, Issei swallowed his food without problems. Sorry, Rias. Yes, I don't know why, but I was starving like I haven't eaten for weeks. Wow. Well, I'm happy that I could help you, otherwise, you would have had big troubles. I think so too. They both started to laugh softly and finally took some time to watch what Rias was wearing. Her attire consisted of a white long-sleeved, button-down shirt with vertical linings, a black ribbon on the collar, a black shoulder cape and matching button-down corset, and a magenta skirt with white accents. It suited her very well, showing her nearly perfect body. So Rias, I guess you're in high school, judging by your physique and uniform. Yes, I'm in Kuo Academy. I'm a third year. At the mention of Kuo Academy, Issei felt this feeling again, this feeling of déjà vu. He was sure that he already heard this name before. But this time it was stronger before. It even gave him a small headache, but no matter how hard he tried, he wasn't able to remember anything. Are you alright, Issei? You seem in pain. It's just, Kuo Academy, I'm sure I heard it before, but I can't remember why and where. Maybe you were in our school before. If that's the case, you should still be in the registers. They keep info about the students, so we could find something about you. Really? That's awesome! Exclaimed Issei. I could learn more about me. Thank you, Rias. You're very welcome. It's normal. Now, how old are you, Issei? Issei looked down to the ground. I told you, I only remembered my name. Nothing less, nothing more. Don't worry. I'm sure that the records are made by classes, so it will be easy to guess your age. Wow. Those records sure are handy, but I will not be able to enter the school grounds anymore. I'll see what I can do. I'm friended with some of the teachers, don't worry. But you'll have to come with me. I can't thank you enough for all you agree to do for me, Rias. I wish I could do more for you, but I can't. Don't worry. As I told you before, I just can't let someone with no memories that I can help go on their own. And I guess that you don't have any money on you either, right? Issei looked down again. Of course, he didn't. He didn't have other clothes to wear. You're right, Rias. I don't have anything other than those clothes. I don't even have my identity papers. That's problematic. If you don't have any proof of identity, you will never get a job, which means no money and no home. Well, how about I lend you a room for tonight? I can't let you sleep outside. No. I can't abuse your kindness anymore. You have done too much for me. I won't. Stop right there. As I told you before, I want to help you. It's not a problem for me. I don't want to let you freeze in the cold in shirt and pants. I'll let you sleep in my house, even if I have to use force and drag you all the way, said Rias with her authoritative voice. Issei understood that there was no point in arguing. Fine, you won. I'll abuse of your kindness more. Please let me sleep at your place tonight. There, was it so hard? Rias looked at her watch. Ho, it's already this late. You should go now, or it will be too late when we will arrive. Let's go, Issei. Yes, ma'am. Giggled Issei as they walked out of the restaurant. The sun was low in the sky and the breeze was fresh, which gave a romantic feeling to this walk. Is your home still far, Rias? Not really. It's a few blocks after the fountain place. Okay. Is the fountain far from here? I can't remember at all. About 10 minutes of walking, I think. See, not so far, right? She said, a happy smile on her lips. Kuo City, Fountain Place, dawn. After an indeed short walk, both teenagers arrived at the Fountain of Kuo. It was a nice place with benches and a playground for children. Every 30 minutes, the fountain would project water to the sky, which made her famous in Kuo. It seems to be a nice place to hang out, said Issei, with a nostalgic tone. Why? He didn't know. It was like this, he missed this place. It can really but nice indeed. But I prefer the academy, responded Rias. As the sun was setting she regained her powers quickly, but she wouldn't tell it to Issei. Telling a human about the fact that the supernatural world exists is out of question, she thought. Well, everyone has its OP, but just at mid-sentence, he felt something. Danger. His brain was screaming, danger incoming. To him, over and over again. He pushed Rias far out of reflex, to protect her from what was coming. What are you doing? She asked before a powerful explosion went off just below Issei. A magic explosion. The blast propelled her a little farther, and she slammed on the brick floor. What happened? Why? Where is Issei? She asked, and then she heard something heavy fall on the ground. It was Issei. He was burnt and had nearly no clothes left. Rias was afraid. He had just been attacked by a being of the supernatural, but why? Then, a black feather fell from the sky. Fallen angels? Are they here for me? Two men landed near the body of Issei. One was a man in his early 40s. He wore a closed gray trench coat over a white dress shirt, black pants, shoes, and gloves. He also wore a black fedora over his mid-long black hairs. The over was smaller, about 160 centimeters, 5 feet 2. His attire consisted of a black t-shirt with, "I bring death," written on it. He wore blue jeans and black sports shoes. He had long black hair that went down his middle back. You sure it's the one Don Hasek? Seems pretty weak, said the one who wore the black t-shirt. I'm sure of it, a troll. He's the one on the photo, though slightly buffer. Responded Don Hasek, after watching on a photo which Rias couldn't see for where she stood. Well, we should do something about the devil girl here. She saw us, said a troll while turning to Rias. What do we do with her, bro? Those hairs, jackpot. It's a Gremory, a noble family. We could use her to get money and power from the Satan himself, said Don Hasek while grinning. Because you thought I would go down without fighting. In your dreams fallen, said Rias as she charged her power, but suddenly chains emerged from the ground and imprisoned her. The more she tried to break free, the tighter they became. Is that all you can do? Pathetic. You will come with us, no matter what you will say, bitch. And don't try to break free of my chains, they have the ability to suck up your magic power if you try to break them, said a troll in a mocking tone. Rias surrendered to fate. Without her magic, she couldn't call her friends, nor could she fight back those crows. But then the words of Don Hasek hit her. Wait, they were after Issei from the begging. Why was he researched by the fallen? A troll. I just remembered we had to behead this thing, so we can go back at the HQ. It won't go down otherwise. After you chopped his head, roast him to cinders. Right away, bro. Answered the shorter fallen. He had a wicked grin on his face. Too bad I won't hear him scream. It would have been better that way. Well, I should just go down to business, he said, then turned to where Issei was. But something shocked him. He was no here anymore. All a troll heard was a scream coming from above him, a scream that said how bad this situation was for him. Bow! Screamed the newly transformed Issei, who just switched to his bow form. He had jumped from his previous spot high enough so a troll couldn't see him, and landed a powerful hammer punch in the head of the fallen. It was not enough to kill him, but it did hurt him. A troll was on the ground, knocked out from the impact. Bao tried to use this dizziness to crush Atril head, but Don Hasek threw multiple light spears to him, forcing him to jump to avoid being hurt too much. He still had cuts all over him, but it wasn't much, he could still fight. He promised he would protect Rias no matter what. Flashback. As Don Hasek and a troll were talking. Pain, that's all he felt right now. His body was hurt all over, his flesh was burnt and the fall made him felt like his bones were broken. Why? Why do people always try to kill him? But then Issei remembered that Rias was here. He turned his head to see that she was held by chains that erupted from the ground. He couldn't hear what the men were talking about, but he only knew one thing. Rias was in danger. He had to do something. He had to protect her. And only one thing could beat these monsters. So be it. Even if I ruin my image to her, I'll do it. Issei thought about his first time as the Bao, and he felt the power course through his veins. He was transforming again, and he knew one thing for sure. They would leave Rias alone. Forever. Back to the present. Bao looked right at Danhaseek, his eyes filled with killing intent. Bao rushed to the fallen at great speed and armed a punch and threw it to Danhaseek's stomach. The impact made a loud bone-crushing sound, but Danhaseek managed to counterattack and impaled Bao's shoulder, leaving a hole as the spear was fading. Danhaseek was thrown into a nearby public toilet wall. He hardly stood up and thrown multiple spears at Bao. He managed to avoid many, but some hit him in the stomach and legs. But Bao was too focused on protecting the redhead to think about pain. Bao raised his finger in the air and started to repeat, "Baru Baru Baru," again as his aura charged with electricity. Suddenly Bao pointed his finger to the fallen, and thunder struck Danhaseek, doing even more damage to him. Rias was shocked. Was that Issei? Was this powerful and brutal humanoid the kind amnesic boy she met not so much ago? But at least Rias knew now that Issei wasn't really human, but a hybrid that she never heard of. But she felt something as she watched Issei fight. She felt protected. She knew that he was trying his hardest to protect her, and she really liked that. Danhaseek saw that he couldn't kill this thing alone, so he deployed his wings and rushed to a troll. He held him on his shoulder and said, "I'll let you live for now, Bao. But the next time I see you, you will not be so lucky." He then escaped in the sky, too fast for Bao to react. But now that a troll was far, Rias was freed from her prison. Issei transformed back into his human form and fell on his back. He had multiple holes and cuts on his body, but he was happy that Rias was fine. He saved her for now, that was all that mattered. Issei felt his consciousness slowly drift away, but before he passed out he seen that Rias was rushing to his side while screaming his name. He smiled at her before he fell limp on the floor, blood escaping from his wounds. Line break. When Issei opened his eyes, he knew something wasn't right. He was in the backseat of a car, wearing brown dress shoes, black pants, a white shirt with black highlights on it and a black ribbon. This uniform kinda reminded him of Rias' uniform, but it seemed to be for boys instead. Maybe, it's a part of my past. Thought. If it's the case, I really did enroll in the same school as Rias, but when? Looking in front of him, he saw two adults. The one that was driving was a man in his late 15s. He had spiky brown hairs, wore glasses and had a big smile on his lips. He wore simple jeans and a white shirt with the two first buttons down. He seemed to have a normal physique, with nothing really special about him. Next to him was a woman in her late 14. She had long brown hairs tied in a ponytail and also seemed to be really happy about something. She wore a short-sleeved shirt and white pants, and Issei had to admit that it looked good on her. She also seemed pretty normal but had a kind aura around her. Issei didn't know why, but he felt safe here. These two people made him feel calm and peace. He knew that he could trust them no matter what. Then his brain remembered something. These two faces. He knew them by heart. My dad and mom. But, how? Of course. It was normal that his parents made him feel secure. But apart from the fact that they were his parents, Issei didn't remember anything else about them, not even their names. All he knew was that he was fine here. Maybe I'm dead and that this is paradise. He didn't want this to end. He didn't wish for this feeling to go away. But fate is a bitch. As they were crossing a bridge, something made one of the tires explode. Due to this sudden explosion, Issei's father lost control of his vehicle and hit the barrier next to the road. The car, due to her speed, went over the protection and started to fall. Issei was afraid. He had to do something or his parents would die. But he couldn't make anything as the car was about to crash in the ocean. All he could hear was the screams of his parents as the car slammed in the water. Issei also screamed, and then. Present, unknown location. Issei woke up while screaming. He was sweaty, had a horrible headache and felt like his bones were needles. Looking around him, Issei didn't recognize this place at all. He was on a large bed, without his shirt and had half the bed sheet on him. It must have moved when I awoke, thought the teen. He sat on the bed, taking a better look at his surroundings. He was a rather large room, filled with Victorian-style furniture which consisted of a desk, a wooden locker and the bed he sat in. Just what was needed. It really stressed Issei to be here, because he didn't know where he was at all. He then heard steps. Someone was rushing to his room. Issei didn't have time to ask himself who it would be, because the person who opened the door eased his mind. It was Rias. She was still wearing her uniform and seemed shocked and tired. Issei? She said, before tackling him with a hug on the bed, her head over his heart. Issei was too surprised to react, as he heard Rias say, finally. After the attack, I thought you were dead. You had so many wounds, and you didn't move at all. I decided to take you at my home to heal you, but you started to heal as soon as I put you on the bed. I was so surprised and shocked at the same time, so I only took what was left of your shirt off, and after I did that you were already fine. No wounds left. And then I heard you breathe calmly like you were asleep. So I let you here to rest, but you screamed minutes ago, and I was afraid something wrong happened, she said between sobs. Issei only realized now that she was crying and that his torso was wet from the beautiful maiden tears. Calm down now, he whispered while stroking the back of her head slowly. Don't worry anymore. It was just a nightmare. I'm fine. So don't cry anymore. It pains me to see you like this. Just stay like this for a while, she said in a begging voice. She didn't want to part from him right now. All he did was taking her in his powerful arms, still caressing the back of her head with his hand. After a few minutes, Rias wasn't crying anymore. She still had puffy red eyes and tear stains on her face, but she felt better. Thank you, Issei. I was so afraid after what happened. I should be the one to apologize. I should have reacted sooner. Don't worry. Though I have to ask you this. What did you turn into when you were fighting? She asked with her serious voice. Issei just lowered his head and said. I don't know. I don't know what I really am. All I know is that it's the way it is. I had to transform, otherwise, you would have had problems. He rose from the bed and continued. I should go. You wouldn't want to stay with a monster like me any longer, right? Thank you for helping me and goodbye Rias. He started to walk but felt that something, or someone, was holding his wrist. He shifted his gaze to see that Rias was preventing him from going by holding his wrist. Don't you say that again, Issei. I can't let the one who saved me twice call himself a monster. But that's what I am, shouted Issei, tears in his eyes. As soon as I woke up, the first thing I did was kill. I killed the researchers, the armed men, and this guy who shot light spears. Only monster do that. Enough, she shouted as she forced Issei on the bed with her demon strength. He was shocked to see that Rias was able to force him to lie like that. She hugged him again, holding his face close to her heart. It was now her time to feel her torso get wet from the teen tears. You were defending me. You risked your life for me. And if those armed people were shooting you, you just did what you needed to do. I can see that you regret what you did, and monsters can't do that. That's all that matters, she said with a motherly tone. Her smile and sweet voice calmed Issei, who was still crying a little. Thank you, Rias, whispered Issei. He sat back in a comfier way, still hugging Rias. But you know that I'm not human anymore. Will still befriended with me? Asked Issei in a begging voice. Rias smiled and whispered in his ear. There is no human in this room, Issei. Not a single one. To say that Issei was shocked would be an understatement. Was Rias not human? Are you serious? You're not. You won't believe me if I don't show you, she said while giggling. She gently broke free of his embrace and walked in front of him. She faced him and suddenly two bat-like wings erupted from her back. Issei was astonished by this. He looked at her with eyes the size of saucers. Let me introduce myself again, Issei. I am Rias Gremory, a devil of the Gremory clan. Happy to really meet you, Issei. A devil? Like in the legends? Yes, I live in the underworld and use magic. I didn't lie to you. I'm not human either, so I don't care for what you are. I see you as Issei, nothing else. So don't worry. She smiled again. He just stayed silent for a second before moving closer to her and hugging her again. I'm so happy. I'm so happy. Thank you, Rias. Thank you so much. Are you not afraid of me being a devil? She asked, a little worried. He just faces her, looked right at her eyes and said, I only see you as Rias as you just see me as Issei. I don't care about the devil fact. All I want is to be by your side for now. You've been so kind to me from the start, so I want to return the favor. Don't give your trust so easily, silly head, she said while snuggling into his larger chest. But thank you. It's nice to know this. Also, Issei, now that you know what I am, you'll have to stay close to me, she giggled. You mean? He asked, not getting what she was saying. Enroll in Kuo Academy. That's the condition I have. No problems with me, Rias. In fact, I would have asked to. I want to have a normal life again. Well, as normal as I can. And, if I enroll in your school, I'll be able to protect you. But tell me, are there other demons in this town? Yes, there are. But don't worry, as long as I am with you, none of them will attack you. You have my word. Okay. Thank you, Rias. He smiled again, before yawning loudly. Rias giggled again as Issei was blushing. Someone is feeling tired, right? How about we both go to bed? It's already late. Why yes, but can I ask for something? What do you wish for? Could you, sleep next to me? I really like your warmth, he asked, a little unsure. I sound like a creep. Okay. No problems with me. I'm used to sleeping next to people. Just let me change first, she said as she started to remove her clothes. Issei turned around not to look at her. He wanted to, but he wouldn't do it without her accord. I'm done, Issei. He turned around and saw that Rias was totally naked. He turned around again, this time to hide the tent in his pants. Why are you naked, Rias? I can't sleep if I'm not naked. You two should get rid of your pants, it wouldn't be nice to sleep with them, she said as she sat behind him. Why yes, he slowly took off his pants, leaving him in only his boxers. Like this, he couldn't hide at all the fact that he was excited. Great. Hurry, we'll have to get up soon tomorrow, you'll need clothes. Yes, thank you again, Rias. He answered as he laid on his back. Rias decided to sleep on his right arm, using his shoulder as a pillow. Fortunately for Issei, she didn't notice the rather big bulge in his pants. Good night, Issei. Good night, Rias, he whispered as they both began to fall asleep. There. Finally, done. Took me 2 days to finish, but I'm rather proud with how it turned out. Don't hesitate to tell me if you think something went wrong, and until next time, see you. Chapter 3. School and Tests. Hey everyone, I'm back with Chapter 3. So, first I need to tell you that some characters will be changed. You'll see later in this chapter what I mean. Secondly, I still don't know if Issei will have the boosted gear. I think he would be up with the Bow's powers and the Longinus, so I'll let you guys decide. I want you to choose the fate of the future of this fanfic. On with the story. The next day, morning. Issei was woken by a thin trail of light coming from between the curtains. The first thing his brain registered was a sweet smell of strawberries. Looking down to see where the sweet smell came from, he saw that Rias had moved her body a little, now resting her head on his chest and her body on his arm. Issei blushed at this, realizing that she was still naked, but didn't move. He didn't want to wake her now, she seemed so peaceful that it would be a crime to do so. He just relaxed and closed his eyes, bathing in the sweet smell and heat that her body produced. He didn't know how much time passed by, but after this Rias stirred a little and rose from her sleep. Issei smiled and said, with a low voice. Hello, Rias. Slept well? She stretched her arm and smiled back at him. Hello, Issei. Yes, I did, and you? It was really good too. Glad you liked my body, she said while winking. He blushed before turning his gaze away. So, what's the plan for today, Rias? First I need to get you some clothes. After that I'll teach you the basics of the supernatural world, then we'll eat and go to see my demon friends. Okay with me. Breakfast? It would be a good idea. I'll cook something for you, just wait here, she said while standing up. But as she was leaving, she felt Issei grabbing her wrist. I'll help you. In fact, I'll do it myself. I own you this, right? He said while smiling. Do you know how to cook? Even with your amnesia? Will you be okay? She asked with a concerned tone. I'm sure I'll be able to do it. I think I learned how to cook before, so let's see if I'm right, he said with confidence. Care to show me where the kitchen is? Fine, but I'll stay close by. If you have problems just call me. She sighed before putting some clothes back on, and so did Issei. Well, all the clothes he had were pants, so he was still pretty much naked and gave a good view of his muscle chest to Rias, but he didn't really mind it. After they were done, they both walked out of the room into a wooden corridor. It had the same Victorian style as the room but had less furniture. After a short walk, both teens arrived in a large room with 3 couches and a coffee table between them. It also had closets, all in Victorian style. You really seem to like the Victorian style, it's everywhere here, said Issei in a questioning tone. Yes, I love this style. And the building just fitted so well that I had to do it. Really? Well, I understand that you picked it. But are you all alone here? It seems way too big for a single person. She giggled at his question before responding. You'll see why later on. Now, to the kitchen. She led him through another door, showing him a modern kitchen with rather good quality equipment. I must say I almost expected a Victorian kitchen here, Issei said in a rather mocking tone. Some things have to be modern, otherwise it would be difficult. Sorry for that, she said in an equally mocking tone. No problems. Now, do you have an apron or something? I wouldn't want to cook half naked. No problems, just leave me a second. She searched in a closet nearby and took out a black apron out of it. There you go. All the food you'll need will be in the fridge or in the closets. I'll be taking a shower, so call if you need help. See you later, Issei, she said before leaving. Issei smiled at her before looking at what he had in terms of food. Pork meat, white rice, vegetables, and some miso soup. That should just about do it, thought Issei before getting down to business. He started to chop vegetables, fry the pork. It was almost natural to him. He knew exactly what to do, which ingredient to put in at which time. I really did learn how to cook before. That's good to know, he thought before returning to cooking. 1 hour later. Rias felt revived after a really long shower. She was changing into clean clothes when she smelled a delicious smell coming from the kitchen. So he didn't need any help after all. It sure smells good. She giggled in her mind before standing up and walking ahead to the kitchen. She opened up the door and seen that Issei was still at the oven, finishing the breakfast. She walked closer and said, "It sure smells good. What did you decide to make?" "Fried pork with ginger, miso soup, and white rice along with steamed vegetables. Hope it will be as good as it smells." "You seem to know how to cook very well, maybe even better than me. Wasn't it too hard?" "Not at all. It all seemed natural to me. I'm sure I knew how to cook in my previous life. It will soon be done, just sit and I'll serve the dishes." "Okay," she answered, proud that he still had some reflexes from before. True to his word, a few minutes later the dishes were served. It smelled so good that Rias had problems not to dig in right when he served her. "Well, itadakimasu," they both said before digging in. As Issei hoped, it was pretty good and he was relieved that he didn't waste all this food for anything. Rias, on her side, admitted defeat. He was a way better cook than her. He must be a natural at this, she thought as she happily thought about him cooking her delicious meals every day. She blushed a little at this, imagining Issei staying with her forever. What am I thinking about? I shouldn't think about that kind of things. She shook her head to push those thoughts away and looked at Issei. It's really delicious, Issei. You're the best cook I ever met. He swallowed what he was eating before responding. For all you did and plan to do for me, it's the least I can do. Consider it a token of my gratitude, Rias, he finished with a smile. They both continued to eat the meal until the last piece of rice. No food was left after they finished. Issei accepted to wash the dishes, leaving Rias the time to call one of her friend that would be giving his shirts to Issei. She sat on one of the couches, relaxed and opened her palm. From her hand appeared a small red circle. Soon after that, the face of a young man appeared on it. "Glad you answered so fast, Yuto. Everything for you, Lady Rias. How may I help you?" "I met someone yesterday that saved me from two fallen." "What? Why didn't you call me nor the other peerage's members? We're here to protect you with our lives." "Calm down, Yuto. I was chained in magic that would suck up my reserves and I had no time to call you all." The male teenager just looked at Rias, before he calmed down and let the redhead continued. "As I was saying, he is at the clubhouse right now, but he has nearly no clothes. I would like you to lend him some of your t-shirts, the largest ones." "I would be happy to oblige, but are you sure he is no threat? He may have been working with those fallen to get close to you." "Silence," she said with her authoritative tone. "They were about to kill him if he didn't fight back. They were here to dispose of him, not to retrieve him. Don't insult him like that, Yuto. It pains me to see you so wary." "Sorry, Lady Rias," he said before smiling. "So, I assume that he knows about the supernatural world?" "Not really, but he saw enough to believe it. It was able to make two fallen angels fall back, so his strength is to be reckoned with. Then I'll haste to you with clothes for him. If you believe in him, then so will I." "Thank you, Yuto." See you soon, she said before the magic circle disappeared. She was happy that he accepted but was afraid that even his largest t-shirts wouldn't be large enough for Issei. Soon after that Issei walked out of the kitchen, still in the black apron Rias gave him earlier. He seated in front of her on a couch. Tell me Rias, could I borrow your shower? I would love to clean myself a bit. Of course, follow me Issei, she said as she stood up and led him to the curtains that were closed behind him. Take your time. Oh, and by the way, one of my friends will come later to lend you some clothes. Wow. Thank you, Rias. I'll also have to thank your friend when he'll arrive. Is he a devil too? Yes, he is. But don't worry. If you don't attack me, which I'm sure you won't, he will not attack you. He's not violent. Happy to hear that devils are not like in legends. It's hard to think that someone as kind as you is a devil, he said before removing his pants. Have a good shower Issei. Thank you, he said, as water splashing noises started to make themselves heard. Rias walked to the couch and waited, either for her friend to come or for Issei to finish. 5 minutes later, the same red magic circle that Rias used earlier appeared on the center of the room, and from it appeared a handsome young man around 172 centimeters, 5 feet 7, with short blonde hair, blue eyes and a mole underneath his left eye. He wore the Kuo Academy Boys' School uniform, which consists of a black blazer with white accents over a white, long-sleeved dress shirt with a black ribbon on the collar, matching black pants and brown dress shoes. With him was a brown leather bag. He smiled to Rias before bowing. It's a pleasure to see you Lady Rias. As you asked, I brought you some t-shirts. Thank you, Yuto. Have a seat, my guest is taking a shower, she said while pointing the couch in front of her. He seated in front of her and put his trademark smile back. Tell me Lady Rias, how much do you know about this guest? Not much actually. He's around our age, has no memories and is tracked down by fallen angels. His name is Issei. Also, I don't know his kind at all. Chased by fallen angels? He must have done something bad or be a possible threat. Either way, Azazel didn't say anything about possible danger, so I think he is considered to be a threat to their kind. As expected of you Yuto, as smart as ever. Thank you for the compliment milady, he said as the shower sounds stopped. Huh? Issei must have finished, Rias said with a small smile. Yuto was still on alert as the curtains opened, letting the knight see who was behind. To say that he was shocked would be an understatement. In front of him was a ripped-bodied behemoth that was easily 2 heads taller than him. He only wore torn dress pants and had a towel over his wet hairs, and drops of water were still down his large muscles. Kiba felt his cheeks heat a little but got back to a normal face almost as fast. It feels so good. Thank you, Rias, he said, gazing upon the redhead and seeing that they were another person here, a boy around his age with blonde hairs. He walked to the couch and said, "Ho, sorry, I didn't know you were there. Allow me to introduce myself, I'm Issei. Pleased to meet you," he said while moving his hand to shake the new teen hands. However, Yuto didn't answer immediately. He spaced out for a while, feeling hotter now that he was close and that he could see the teen's muscles even close. A devilish grin appeared on Ria's lips before she coughed in her hand before saying, "Yuto, it's impolite not to answer when someone says hi to you. Respond please." Kiba blinked a few times before shaking the hand of Issei. Sorry. I was spacing out for a minute. Pleased to meet you too Issei. My name is Yuto Kiba. I'm the knight of Lady Rias. Knight? Is it a devil thing? Yes, Issei, responded Rias. I will explain it to you later. Could you go and make some tea for the 3 of us? Okay Rias, no problems. I'll be right back, Issei said while moving to the kitchen. As soon as Issei closed the door, the devil's smile returned on the lips of the redhead. She slowly turned her head to Kiba, who knew that she was about to tell him something embarrassing. Tell me Kiba, why did I spot a blush on your cheeks when Issei walked in? And why did you only look at his muscled chest, to the point of spacing out? She asked in her usual mocking tone. You already know the answer to Lady Rias, don't force me to say it. Don't worry, I won't tell Issei about this. Still, I wonder how your fan club at the academy would react if they learned that you're more into bigger and buffer men than girls with bountiful chests like me or Akano. But don't worry, I'll always respect your choices in life, as your big sister. Thank you Lady Rias. Also, Issei will join the academy, so you'll have all the time you want to try to seduce him. She winked at her knight, who blushed furiously. Soon after that, Issei arrived with 2 cups of tea and a cup of coffee on a trail. Have I missed something? Not at all, Issei. Come and sit. Kiba brought you some t-shirts, so you don't have to walk half naked all the time. Great. Thank you, Kiba, he said with a smile. Kiba tried not to look too much and said, if you're a friend of Lady Rias, then you're also a friend of mine. Besides, these are too big for me, so it's no problem at all, he said as he held the bag to Issei. Please try them. Of course. It would be rude from me to refuse a present from someone. He hastily took 1 t-shirt of the bag and put it on, but seen that it was tight and still showed the outlines of his torso. A little tight, but better than nothing. Thank you again, Kiba, Issei said in a happy tone. Kiba smiled and responded with, glad you like it, but we'll have to take your measurements if you enter the academy. They'll have to make your uniform so you can enter with no problems. Tell me, Kiba, is the boy uniform is what you are wearing? Yes, it is. To be precise, it's the summer one. In winter we have a jacket over our shirts. Tell me, Lady Rias, when will he enter the academy? As soon as possible. We'll see Sona later to see the records of the academy. Why do you want to see the records, milady? Kiba asked, curious about the motives of his mistress. As I told you before, Issei doesn't have any memories at all, but he said that Kuo Academy reminded him of something. So I'll look around the registers to find information about him, like his family name, where he lived and how old he is. I see, then, if you excuse me, I'll have to go now. I have contracts to attend to. Have a nice day, Lady Rias. You too, Issei. Have a good day too, Yuto. See you in classes on Monday. Goodbye, Kiba. Kiba bowed to the 2 before a magic circle appeared under his feet and he disappeared in flash of light. No matter how many times I watch this, it seems so unreal to me. I'll have to get used to this whole devil thing. I really am part of this world now, right? Yes. No matter how you turn it, you're part of a world of dangers now. The fallen will always try to kill you and you'll never be totally human again. It's still bizarre to think that I'm not human anymore. Well, if it can ease your mind, you're mostly human right now. I still can't figure out where your power comes from. The only way to know it is by going to the lab where I awoke, but there are still many corpses right now, so I will not take you with me. I don't want you to see it. I'm a devil, you know. I can witness the sight of blood. I forgot that. It's still new to me. He leaned back on the couch again, before stretching his arms. Well, I would love to learn more about this new world. Care to teach me, Rias? He asked as a little child asked for an ice cream. It was in my plan for today, so we'll do that the whole morning. Get ready, because it will be a lot to take in, she said while putting on reading glasses. Boy, she didn't lie when she said that it would be hard. Issei learned that all myths are true, that angels, fallen angel, djinns, werewolves, dragons and more were all existing and living by the humans. He also learned about the Great War, where angels, fallen and demon face one another with other races by their sides in a 3-way war that nearly destroyed the 3 factions. Hell even lost its 4 great Satan, their leaders. And because of the war, us devils had lost countless peoples and had to find a way to create new devils. So Lord Beelzebub created the evil piece system, which consisted of chess pieces that are able to reincarnate someone into a devil, no matter what species they were before. These pieces are only given to noble family devils, such as my family. For example, Kiba was a human before I revived him. Those who were reincarnated by this method become a servant to the one who used the pieces. So they are like slaves, right? Asked Issei in a serious tone. For some peoples. I know someone who only has women in his peerage and only see them as toys. Bastard, and you? How do you treat your servants? I'm not like this. I see them as my family. I would die for any of them. I'll believe you for now. By the way, how many servants do you have? Well, there's Kiba, my knight, Akano, my queen, and Kaneko, my rook. That's not much, but I guess that it proves that you don't see them as tools. How so? If you wanted nothing more than slaves, you would have more than 3 of them at your service. And you would already have tried to turn me in a demon. Well, thank you for the classes, Rias. I think I understood it all. That's good to know, Issei, she said with a smile before standing up. Well, now that you know the basics, How about we go to see my friends and enroll you in Kuo Academy? That way you'll have a place to go and will be protected by me and my friends all the time. Sure. Is the academy far from where you live in? She chuckled before responding. Closer than you think. Follow me. Rias guided Issei through multiple doors, which confused Issei some more. How big is her place? He thought before they arrived in two massive doors. Rias opened them, and the light blinded Issei for a minute. When he recovered, all he saw was a massive building. It had multiple floors, at least 4, and had a design that seemed luxurious for an academy, tough a little old school. Bright gray brick base with curved windows, a massive entrance, and a dark red roof. Here's an image. I know it's hard to imagine just by my description. High School DxD, images, 6/6 B, Kuo, Academy, revision, latest. Scale to width down, 300. CB equals 20130719060835. Issei didn't believe his eyes. Are all academy that big? And so luxurious? Rias got in front of Issei and told him, welcome, to Kuo Academy. Wait, you live on the school grounds? But, how? Well, this old building isn't used anymore, so I use it as a base and as a hideout, you could say. She giggled before continuing. But no, I don't live here. It's just that it was easier to carry you here. I was afraid and in a hurry, so I teleported both of us here. Yeah, I just remembered that, so you have a place to stay in case of problems. That's handy. It is. How about we go now? If we hurry, you'll be able to enter high school on Monday or Tuesday. Okay, it will allow me not to spend too much time doing nothing. Glad that you like the idea. Can you leave me a second so I call my friends? I'm not the one in charge of the academy. I guess they'll teleport here. Exact. You're a fast learner, Issei. It wasn't so hard to guess. Does your friend have a peerage too? Of course, she is a noble devil, and she nearly has a full board, which is better than me. I heard that one of her servants has a dragon's sacred gear. Sacred gears, the weapons that God gave to humans so they could fight on par with the supernatural world? Yes, and dragons are really powerful, so their gears are usually really dangerous. So if you ever fight your friend, you'll have to take this one first. Exact again, Issei. But right now I heard that she still needs to train, so she's not as dangerous as she could be. But enough talk, we should really go. She said before walking to the main building of the academy. Issei was astonished by the inside. All the materials that were used for this building were luxurious. Everything was grand and screamed, rich. There were marbles columns that had to feel that everything here was way too luxurious for a simple academy. Is everything here so big, Rias? Yes, the academy was made to be this noble-like. It had to its reputation and attracts more peoples. We also have to best learning furniture, so you will learn in a good place, don't worry. Well, guess I'll just have to get used to it. He responded while both of them climbed grand stair just in front of the main door. Rias guided him through corridors that seemed to never end before they arrived in two well-made wooden doors with golden highlights on them. There was also a golden sign above these doors that said, Student Council. The Student Council? So I guess your friend is the president of the council. Yes, she is. That's because she is in charge of the academy, so we made her the student president, so she can act without raising suspicions. That's clever. By the way, what is her name? Her real name is Citri Sona, but in school, you'll refer to her as Shiratori Sona. Okay, I'll try not to make the mistake. Wait, why does she have two names? Citri is her demon name, Shitori is the name she uses here. Fair enough. How about we enter now? Rias nodded in approval and knocked on the door 3 times. Seconds later, a woman voice told, with a strict tone. Come in. Rias whispered to Issei before opening the 2 doors. Stay outside, for now, I'll tell you when you will be allowed to come in. She then entered the student council room. This room was again in a Victorian style, with well-crafted wooden furniture. Behind a large desk was the one everyone would assume was the student council president. She was a young woman, perhaps the same age as Rias, with a slim figure, perfectly outlined by the female uniform of Kuo Academy. She was not as curvy as the redhead, but she was sexy in her own way. She was smaller than Rias, around 166 centimeters, 5 feet 5 inches, with raven black hair in a bob cut and deep violet eyes hid behind red square glasses. In front of her desk was a large table with at least 10 chairs. Rias smiled at her. Hello Sona. How is my favorite rival doing? Let's say that I'm okay. You said that you needed me as soon as possible but didn't tell me why. Care to explain? Of course. You see, I met someone yesterday on the way home. He protected me from a human who tried to harass me. As if you would need help for this. Let me finish, please. As I was saying, he prevented me from using magic on him. He seemed to be hungry, so I invited him to fast food. He was amnesic and didn't remember anything but his name, so I told him to come over because his aura wasn't like anything I felt before. That's interesting, nothing at all. Well, he did have a human scent, but he had something else. After we started to walk to my house, we were attacked by fallen angels. Well, that was to be expected. You're the sister of the actual Lucifer, so of course, they will try to kidnap you. But why didn't you call for help? I would have come with my peerage to save you. I couldn't, I was trapped. But there's something else about this attack. And what is that? I wasn't their target. The one with me was. Sona's eyes widened the size of saucers before she asked. Wait. You were there and you weren't their first target. Do you mean that he was technically more important than you? Who is this boy? He's waiting outside. I can make him enter if you want. Please do. I need to know. Rias smiled before standing up and walking through the doors. She opened one of them and piped her head outside and said to Issei. Come in now, Sona wants to talk with you. Issei calmly walked in and said to Sona, Hello miss. My name is Issei and I'm pleased to meet you. He said with a polite bow. At first, Sona was impressed by the giant in front of her, but seeing Bo like this eased her a little. Hello, Issei. Please have a seat, she said while pointing one of the chairs. Issei obeyed and sat on a chair that was near the large desk. Rias sat in front of him, a smile on her lips. Rias told me about you, said the brunette to the president. You are in charge of the council and of the school, right? It is. I am Citri Sona, though I think that Rias told you my name before. The raven-haired girl said before turning to her friend. I guess you have something to ask me concerning this boy, otherwise you wouldn't have talked to me about him so soon. Yes, I would like if you could make him enter the academy in my class. He'll be in danger if no one protects him. That will not be a huge problem, but how will I do it if he doesn't even remember where he comes from? I can't create academic records. If he passes the third-year exchange test, it would be okay even without traces. That could indeed work, but he will do it here without cheating. Of course, responded Issei. I wouldn't want to false my results to enter a grade one wouldn't understand. Perfect. I'll get a sheet for you. You will undergo tests this afternoon and tomorrow. If everything goes well, you will join Rias's class on Wednesday. But prepare yourself, this test is said to be quite hard. I'll pass no matter the difficulty. I'll do my best. I'm glad to hear that, said Sona before turning to Rias. I'll keep him with me for the weekend, Rias. I'll watch over him during the tests. It's okay with me. Issei will sleep in the old school building. Hey, thanks Rias. Gotta remember I owe you one. Rias giggled slowly before whispering. I'll keep that in mind, Issei. But I think I'll need you sooner than you think, unfortunately, Rias though. There. Took me time, but finally done. So yeah, I told you characters would be changed, and I didn't lie. Kiba will have a crush for Issei later in the fanfic. Why? Because I thought it would be funny. Also, I decided that Saji will be a girl, also because it seemed funny to me. That way I can make Sona part of the harem without problems. Remember to leave a review if you liked this chapter or to decide the fate of the boosted gear. See you next time, Azarda. First, previous CH3 of 12 next. Just in community forum more Issei, The Visitor by Azarda. Anime, High School DxD, Haisukuru D times D rated. M, English, Supernatural and Romance. H Issei, Rias G. A Asia. H Akano, Words, 119k plus, Faves, 175, Follows, 196, Published, March 19, 2018 Updated, July 31, 2020 42 Chapter 4. Tests, Cooking and Relation Deepening. Hey. Back with Chapter 4. There won't be much action in this one, mostly character and relationship development. On with the chapter. Now that we have everything scheduled, how about we eat something, Sona? Issei is a great cook. We have to taste his dishes, said Rias in her cheerful tone. I'm not that good, I don't even know how to cook them, responded Issei. Sona looked at Issei. Well, some cooks say that it becomes instinctive after some time. That might be your case, she said to the teen. If you only lost your memories, you didn't lose your knowledge. That's why you still know how to cook, she said before looking at her friend. But I'll have to decline. I have to eat with my peerage for the birthday of Saji. I'll come back around 2 p.m. See you later, Rias. You too, Issei, Sona said before a blue magic circle appeared in front of her. See you, Sona, said Rias while smiling. Issei responded with, see you later, President. Sona walked in the circle, disappearing in blue light. Well, Issei, how about we both go in the old building and get something to eat? I really want to taste your meals again. Issei happily sighed before giving up. Fine, take me to the kitchen again, I'll cook us something to eat. Thank you, Issei, she said before both of them walked to the occult research clubhouse. After the same short walk, they both arrived at the Victorian building. Issei headed to the kitchen, put the apron back on and looked again at what he had. I'll make steamed rice, panned fish, and beef sauce. That should be enough. Getting down to business, Issei started to cook what he meant to do. Like the first time this morning, it was automatic for him. An hour later and a half later, Issei arrived with their meal on a silver tray. Rias sat happily on the wooden chair, happy that she had a real cordon bleu at her service. She smiled at the cook before saying, your meals always smells good. Itadakimasu, she said before digging in her food hungrily. Issei smiled at her and also started to eat. Half an hour later, both Issei and Rias were fast to eat. Half an hour later, the dishes were finished and both teens were full. This time, Rias asked to wash the plates to thank him for the meal. Issei thanked her and watched on the clock in front of the table. 1:45, I still have some time. Issei moved over to the kitchen and asked Rias. Tell me, Rias, can you talk to me about your peerage members? I would love to know more about them. Rias raised her head and stopped washing the plates. Well, I think they will introduce themselves later. I wouldn't want to ruin the surprise, she responded with her usual giggling tone. Tell me, Issei, shouldn't we get going? We wouldn't want to be late, especially with Sona. Yeah, we should go, I think. The teen responded. They both took their time, having small chat along the way. They arrived 5 minutes early to the office and Issei decided to knock on the large doors. Come in, said the Citri heiress from inside the room. Issei opened the doors and seen that there was a school desk with a sheet upside down, writing pen, a pencil, and an eraser. Wow, you have laid down everything for me. Thank you, President, Issei said with an impressed tone. Well, you're about to pass the test like all exchange student would. Pens are given so that cheating is not possible. Rias, I'm sorry but he'll have to stay here for the next 6 hours, said Sona in her firm tone. Rias smiled before leaving the room. Good. You will undergo math, English and Japanese tests today. They are a little tricky, but all need is 50 points at each one. If you don't know anything at all, just tell me and I'll give you the second year one. Thank you, President. I'll start right now, said Issei as he was sitting in front of the desk. How much time do I have per test? 2 hours. You'll spend the whole afternoon here. Also, there will be a magic circle to prove that you did it yourself. Well, I guess I won't have time to get bored. Your 2 hours starts now. Just when she told him to start, Issei flipped his paper and started to look at the questions. It wasn't impossible, but he still had problems with some questions. What does this mean? Well, I'll do the one I can do first and I'll think about these after, he thought before starting to answer the different mathematics questions. This is going to be long, but I have to do it to enter the academy. Might do it the best I could. Line break. After 2 hours of hard working, Issei finished just in time as Sona said, time's up, put your pen down. Phew. I thought I wouldn't make it. Here is my test, President, said Issei while holding his answer sheet to Sona. Wasn't it too boring to wait here for 2 hours? No, I had work to do, so I didn't have time to get bored, as you said earlier. Nice one, Prez. How much time do I have until the next one? You have 10 minutes left before starting the English test. And what will you do in this 2 hours gap? I'll send your sheet to a teacher after looking at it. The teachers really seem to trust you, Prez. That may be why you're the president of the student council. That's right. But there's also the fact that my territory is the academy, so that's part of it. I forgot about that. Well, how about I get back to work? That would be wise indeed. Here's the English test. Good luck, Issei. Thank you, Prez, Issei concluded before starting to read the different question once again. The questions were basic English test questions, sentence writing and translation. Nothing impossible but nothing too easy either. Issei was going through it without struggling too much when he came across one particular sentence, one word to be precise, phenomenon. Issei didn't know why, but this word seemed aggressive to him. It reminded him of fighting, of killing. But Issei didn't care for now. He didn't have time to think about a simple word like that. He needed to answer these questions fast and clearly. This test seemed easier than the math one but was still not too easy. Line break. Issei finished 10 minutes before the time limit, which meant that he had a longer pose to prepare for the Japanese test. Phew. One left and I'll be done. Don't worry, from what I read on your first test, you seem to have more than half of the questions correct, so if you do that on all your tests, you'll be fine. Want to start the last test for today? Sure, President. I'm ready. Japanese test, right? Yes. Here it is, she said as she gave him another pack of sheets. More work ahead. Yay, he thought before starting to read what he was asked to answer. Fortunately for him, this one seemed to be the easiest of the three. Never bet on first impressions, he thought before rereading the questions. Line break. Issei had a hard time on some questions, but managed to finish just in time again. Finally. Now I can get some rest. Yes, you're done for now. You'll come here at 8 a.m. tomorrow to proceed with the next tests. After tomorrow, you'll be done with the tests. You may go to the old school building to eat and rest. You're right. See you tomorrow, Prez. Goodbye, Issei. With that said, Issei walked out of the council room and headed to the orc room. He took his time to walk, feeling relieved to move around after 6 hours of tests. He finally arrived at the Victorian building and moved through the same doors to enter the clubroom. He opened the doors and seen that Rias was here, reading papers on her desk. She had white reading glasses on, which gave her a more mature look. When Issei entered the room, she raised her head and smiled at the teen. Issei, you're back. Did you manage to do it? I think so. The Prez said that I did well on the first tests and that I had to continue like this, he said while sitting in one of the sofas near the redhead's desk. But I'm really tired and hungry. Do you want to eat something special, Rias? I'll cook something for you too. Rias giggled softly before answering. If you continue to cook for me, I'll have to always ask you to do so. Consider that it is my way to say, thank you for everything, for now. So, what do you want? If it's not too much to ask, I would like chicken for dinner. No problems. Do I cook plenty or just a little? I'd like you to cook much, I'm really hungry. Right away, ma'am, he said while moving to the kitchen. He put his apron back on and looked in the fridge and the closets for food, only to find that everything was full again. Rias must have gone on errands. That just means that I don't have to worry about lacking food for now. She wanted chicken, that should be easy to do. How about some vegetable sauce with it? Pasta could be nice too. Yeah, I'll do that and finish with this. He thought as he planned on what to make for the both of them. Without wasting time, he got right into cooking, with the same swiftness as before. He hummed a little song while panning the chicken and adjusted the different aromas of his vegetable sauce. About an hour later, Issei finished the dinner, which consisted of panned chicken, vegetable sauce, and spiced pasta. As before, Ria's mouth was watering just by the smell of the teen's dishes. She happily sat at the table and looked at her plate with a smile. It always smells so good. Are you sure you're not using magic on your food? Magic can't solve everything, I think. But I don't think I'm using any kind of supernatural magic, only the good old magic of spices. If you say so, I'll believe you. Itadakimasu, Rias said as she grabbed her chopsticks and took a piece of chicken, drenched it in sauce before putting it in her mouth. She squealed and said after swallowing her food. That does it. From now on, you're my personal cook. Your food just tastes so good, it always surprises me. Glad you like it. I really enjoy cooking. Maybe that's why it's good, he said while also starting to eat. I can't wait to see the faces of my peerage members when they'll taste your food, said an almost childlike Rias while still eating her dinner. So I'll get to meet them. Cool. Yes, it's just that they are at their house right now. They'll come on Monday to attend classes. That's good to the ear. I'll cook something for all of us, so when you'll come back from the morning classes you'll have something ready. That's so kind. Thank you, Issei. I should be the one to thank you. You've done so much that some meals aren't really much. The rest of the diner was filled with small talks between the teens. Issei told Rias what the test was made of. Rias told Issei that she had paperwork to do and that she also didn't have time to rest during the afternoon. After they both finished their plate, Issei walked to the kitchen, saying to Rias that he had a little surprise left for her. 5 minutes later, Issei got out of the kitchen with 2 parts of strawberries cake. It tough I would make a dessert to finish on a sweet note. I hope you like strawberries. My. Thank you, chef. I really like cakes, Rias said as Issei gave her her part. Glad to hear that. I'll try different types of cakes and would need peoples to tell me if they're good. Well, I might not be the better one for that, but I now someone who would really like to test them. But that doesn't mean I'll refrain from tasting, she said while starting to eat her cake. She squealed happily again at the taste while saying, because of you, I might not be able to eat other dishes now. You told it before, I'm your personal cook, so that's fine, he responded while giggling. After they both finished their cake, Issei took the plates away to wash them, even if Rias asked many times to do it while pouting. Issei only laughed at her expression, finding it very cute. But you did the meal for me instead of resting. I should at least do the washing for you, she answered, still pouting. Don't worry, Rias, it's no problem for me. It will help me to relax a little. I think I'll take a shower then go to sleep after that. Fine, I'll prepare a bed for you. Also, I'll be going in the shower first. Fine, I get it. Please do so, he said before returning to washing. A few minutes later, Issei finished the cleaning and headed to the living room to find Rias was not here, but still in the shower. Issei could see her silhouette behind the curtains. Her slender body, large buttocks, and generous bosom were perfectly outlined, like Chinese shadows. Issei couldn't deny that he really wanted to ravish her. After all, who wouldn't? She has a good heart and a nearly perfect body, so every teen of his age would kill to spend the night with her. He shook his head a little to chase these thoughts away. He didn't need to think of that now. But maybe later if our relationship goes well. He thought to himself before sitting on one of the couches. A few minutes later, the redhead came back into the living room wrapped in with towels around her waist, bust and over her hairs. Like what you see? She asked in her playful tone. Yup, and who wouldn't? You have a body that's even better than models. Thanks for the compliment. The shower is free now, use it as you please. I'm going to put on better clothes than simple towels. That's indeed a good idea. See you later, he said while heading to the shower. Issei used the time he had under a good hot shower to rethink about himself. So I was a human. I guess I died in a car accident and was brought back by the fallen angels as the bow. That's not much. He sighed and rested his head on the wall of the cabin. I'll wait for now. I'll see later if this town still has informations for me, he thought before starting to wash with the soap that was nearby. While he was doing a shampoo, he noticed that he sniffed a familiar fragrance coming from the soap. Strawberries, must be Ria's shampoo. It indeed smells good, he thought before washing his hairs and heading out of the shower to his clothes. That's when he remembered that his only pants were worn out, torn and dirty. He sighed in exhaustion and boredom. I should have asked Kiba for shorts, would have been better than these. Wait, shorts? That could just about do it, he thought before looking at his pants again. The dirt and blood were mainly on the legs part of the trousers, which gave our protagonist an idea. Using his enhanced strength and precision, he ripped the legs part off his pants, leaving not much to cover his powerful legs. That way, he seemed a little cleaner. Better. With his new shorts on, Issei walked into the living room to find Rias sitting at her desk, wearing a black night robe. I'm back, Rias. Had a good shower, Issei? Yup, really felt good. I think I'll go to bed now, I'll have to wake up soon tomorrow. No problems with me. Do you want to do as we did yesterday? I cannot say no when a beautiful model-like girl asks me if I want to sleep next to her. Of course, I would love to do as yesterday. Great. I'll let you go to bed first. I still have some papers to fill. Okay. See you later, Rias. he said while entering the room he used before. He took off his shorts and lied in the bed on the left side, leaving space for Rias on his right side. If I remembered correctly, she slept on my right shoulder yesterday. About 20 minutes later, Rias came into the room. The dim light that came from the curtains shone her curves but let the rest of the details to Issei's mind. About time. Were those papers so hard to fill? He asked in a playful tone, only to receive a small punch on the head by the devil. My work is important, so you'll refrain from critics. And yes, these were hard to fill. Well, I think we both need some rest. Come here, my cute devil, he said while he tapped the space he left for her. Rias giggled and lay beside him, resting her head on his shoulder while snuggling in his chest. Thank you, Issei. Have a good sleep. Good night, Rias. See you tomorrow. Issei's dream. Issei didn't know where he was. All he could see was black. He felt like he was floating into nothingness, and it didn't feel good at all. He had this bizarre impression that something was watching him from afar, like a predator looking a prey. After deriving for what felt like ages, Issei finally felt something. He felt like the insides of his left arm were on fire, and it hurt like a bitch. As he was holding his arm in pain, Issei heard a deep chuckle from above. He looked up to see a giant silhouette clad in fire that seemed to chuckle at him. Maybe I tried too soon. The figure asked to herself with an ancient and powerful voice. I'll knock at the doors again, be sure to open next time. He finished before Issei felt like he was shaken by something. The next day, Issei was awoken by the fact that someone was shaking him. He groggily opened his eyes to see that Rias was the one that was shaking him. He noticed that she was still wearing her uniform with a pink apron on. Good morning, sleepyhead. Rested well? Rias? What time is it? 7 o'clock, your marmot. I already cooked breakfast for us, so go eat and take a shower. I'll be cooking for us for lunch too, so you're only focusing on your tests today. Well, thank you, Rias, he said as he stood up from the bed and put his shorts back on, took a brand new t-shirt and headed out to take a quick shower. As he was showering, Issei looked at his left arm to see that nothing changed. He didn't feel the same pain but still felt a bit weird. I already have too many questions to answer, this one will wait. He thought as he dressed and ate fastly before leaving for Sona's office. He arrived just in time at the student council room where Sona waited for him. Sorry Prez, I woke up later than what I intended to. It's no problem, Issei. Just sit here so you can start this morning tests. What will I have? History and geography first, biology in second, then you'll eat. You'll have to be here at 1:30 and we'll finish with the science one. Yay, more work ahead. Stop crying and get to work. Your 2 hours starts now. The same phrase, again? Really? He toughed before getting down to tests again. 4 hours later. History was rather easy for him, but geography was way harder. He was sure that he didn't do good at it, so he had to make sure to rocks the other ones. The following test was about biology, which Issei was only half proud of. He managed to answer half of the questions by heart, but he wasn't sure about the others. After these 3 tests, Issei came back to the orc to eat with Rias. I'm back, Rias. Welcome back. Were the tests easy? Well, I had problems with these ones. The geography part was really hard and I'm not sure about half of the biology test, but the history was easier. Well, you'll have to do better this afternoon. By the way, which test will you have? I think it was science, but I'm not sure. Well, how about we eat a little? I made some curry rice, so I hope you like spicy dishes. Fine by me, I'm really starving after all this, he said as he sat where Rias laid the plates. She brought their meals soon after and they both started to eat. It's really good, Rias. You're a great cook too. My, thank you, Issei, she said while giggling in her hand. I'm glad it's at your taste, I'm quite proud of this one. You can sure be, it's really good, he said before going back at eating. They had small talks about random things, such as questions that Issei wasn't sure of. Time flew too fast and Issei had to back to the student council room. Sona was already here, waiting for him. There was already his paper sheet and his pens. Well, you're not wasting any time, Prez, of course not. You're doing a test here, so of course, you're not wasting time. So sit please, we'll begin right now. Of course, Prez, science right? Yes, Issei. Try to make it right and do not waste time. Of course, I'll get right on to it. 2 hours later. The science test seemed tricky at first, but the questions weren't so hard if you took the time to analyze them. Issei was nearly sure for the majority of the test, which was still better than this morning. Nothing too hard or too easy, just what was needed. He finished 10 minutes early, which gave him a little time to rethink his answers. As usual, now, Sona ordered him to drop his pen and to give her his sheet. Good job, Issei. That was the last one for now. You'll get your results tomorrow in the afternoon. Okay. Thank you, Prez. No problems, Issei. If you manage to get enrolled, you will also have your physical evaluation in sports classes. Of course, seems legit. This one should be easier than the others. I wouldn't be so sure if I were you. Supernatural beings have their power to reduce here. You'll have a human level. Thank you for the information. See you tomorrow, Prez, he said as he was leaving. She waved him a goodbye before he closed the door behind him. As before this morning, Issei walked slowly to the clubroom. He used this time to watch the sports ground a little. As for the academy, they were really grand. There were a track field, a soccer and a rugby ground and even tennis court. They really have everything here, he thought before going back to Orc room. But when he entered, Rias wasn't in the living room. He felt worried at first before noticing a sweet chocolate aroma coming from the kitchen. Yup, only one thing smells like that. A chocolate cake. A few seconds later Rias came from the kitchen, her apron on with some chocolate stains on it. Welcome back, Issei, she said in her cheerful manner, which never failed to ease Issei. But Issei felt the envy to tease her a little, and boy it was hard to resist. You know how to appeal a man, Rias. The apron on and the sweet aroma of cake being cooked is a good combo. Are you using the newly married woman technique on me? He asked with a teasing voice. Rias' reaction was really funny because her face was as red as her hairs. She turned around fastly to hide her blush and struggled to respond. Issei couldn't hold it anymore and laughed hard to her. After calming himself down, he said, between laughers, "Don't worry, I'm just joking. I know you weren't doing this, but I couldn't resist the envy to tease you." Issei, you idiot, she said before a small devious smile came to her lips. Then that's it, you'll not get to taste my delicious cake, she said in a fake angry tone. Issei also smiled before saying, in an equally fake tone, oh no. Anything but that. Please. Let me taste your cake. Only if you ask for forgiveness. Please, Lady Gremory, I humbly ask for your forgiveness and excuse for my precedent behavior, he said in fake sorrow before they both laughed again. Their laugh ended minutes after, and both had problems to breathe and teary eyes. Fine, you'll get to have a bite, but only because I'm merciful. Thank you, Lady Gremory, he said before they both headed to the kitchen from where the sweet scent came from. The oven was turned with a chocolate cake eating up inside. Issei smiled at Rias and said, it sure smells good. When will it be done? Soon, in 5 minutes to be precise. Be patient until then, Issei. Yes, Mom, he said while putting the accent on the last word. They both laughed again seated near the oven. Tell me, Rias, you have classes tomorrow, right? Yes. I'm sorry, but you'll have to spend the day here alone until you get results. Also, you'll get to meet my peerage tomorrow. No problems, I'll cook something for all of us, will keep me busy for the morning. You have 3 peerage members, right? Yes, and one loves sweats, so I would be glad if you kept that in mind. No problems. I'll cook her something special. Does your peerage know about me? Well, you met Kiba yesterday, and the other 2 know that I keep someone under my protection. I didn't give them details about you, so you'll be able to introduce yourself. Thank you, Rias. I'll cook the better meal they ever tasted. My, someone seems to be confident in its ability. I hope you'll keep your promise, young man. I'll do so, milady, he said as the bell of the oven rang in the kitchen. Rias walked to it, put some cooking gloves on and took the chocolate cake out. It was a really well-made soft chocolate cake that was enough for at least 4 persons. Rias breathed the odor and smiled. Good. It seems that it all went well. I wasn't sure about the time of heating, but it seems good. It's the first time you did a soft chocolate cake? Yes. I usually let my mother do it. Her cakes are really the bests. Issei giggled a little and responded with, well, I would like to meet your mother one day. If what you say is right, I might be able to learn from her. Maybe one day. For now, I think it will need some more times to cool down. Seems so. He answered before he asked her, by the way, Rias, Could you tell me what the physical exam will be made of? I don't know what I should be prepared to do. Don't worry, it's the basics exams. Push-ups, sit-up, curl-up and sprint test. Nothing too hard, even for humans. But my results will be biased. I'm stronger than normal humans. Did you forget that your strength is reduced here? It should be fine. I did forget about this. Thanks for reminding me of this. No problems. It's normal that you forgot it. One does not realize that the barrier is on. Makes sense. Has the cake cooled down? He asked the redhead, who gently touched the cake with her hand. I think it's good. This kind of cake is better hot than cold after all. I agree with you. Let's taste it, he said as he took a knife from the wooden stand on the cooking table and 2 plates from one of the drawers while Rias brought the cake in the living room. Soon after they both were seated on the couch, facing one another with the cake between them on the coffee table. Issei took the knife in hand and cut the cake into 4 parts, and then cut one of the parts in 2 and served Rias her part. Issei took him and tasted it first. Rias looked at his expression worriedly, wanting to know if her cake was good. Rias, this cake is delicious, Issei said with a sincere and happy voice. She sighed in relief before smiling at the taller teen. Thank you, Issei. I wasn't sure about it, but I'm glad I did make it right. Make it right? You nailed it. It's really super good like a pro cook did it, he continued with his amazed voice. Rias blushed a little at his comment and giggled softly. Thank you, Issei. It's really nice when someone compliments me after I do something difficult. It's normal. And we're friends, right? It's normal that I compliment my first friend when she manages to make something so delicious. First friend? Yup, since I woke up you have been the first good person toward me. Most people's just watched me walk around town before I met you. You took time and money for a stranger, and that I will not forget. That's funny because earlier you asked me if I used the newly married woman technique on you, but now it feels like you're the one trying to seduce me with sweet words. Are you using the nice guy technique to make me fall in love? She asked with her teasing tone, but the answer wasn't what she expected to hear. Yup. That's what I've been doing for 2 days now. Is it working? He asked with an equally teasing tone. Seeing that her teasing didn't work, Rias pouted a little and asked. Try to be embarrassed for once. I'll try, I promise. But it just seemed too perfect not to do it. I'll forgive you for this one. But next time, you'll fall for my tease. I promise. Now, what do we do? Well, I haven't thought out it. I think I'll have to leave you tonight. I'll have to go back to my house. So that means I'll be alone for tonight? No lovely Rias to hold close to me? I don't think I'll be able to survive, he said in fake desperation. But one part was true. I didn't really want her to leave him. He felt good when they slept together. Can't you even wait a single night alone? Nope, I won't let you go and sleep alone. Either I come with you to your house or you sleep here, but I won't spend a night without you. You're such a spoiled baby, she said with fake exasperation. Fine. You'll come to my house tonight and sleep with me. What would you do if I weren't here for you? She responded with a smile. In fact, she also wanted him to come with her in the first place. She really enjoyed the 2 previous nights, because Issei gave her warmth and safety when they slept together. I'll teleport us back to my house later. For now, what do we do? Don't know. What time is it? 6 a.m. Time really flies when you have fun. Well, instead of teleporting, how about we walk to your house? That way we'll be able to enjoy the weather. Doesn't sound too bad to me. How about we go now? No problems with me, he said as they headed to the large doors and out of the school grounds. The sun was getting lower and lower in the sky, but the weather was still rather hot, so Issei didn't have troubles to walk around in shorts and t-shirt. They walked for a few minutes, arguing on whom shall cook for dinner, but at the end, Issei won the right to make dinner for both teens. As they were walking side by sides, talking to each other about small things, an older woman came to them. She wore red shoes, a tight black dress with which emphasized her firm butt and a white shirt with the top 3 buttons open. This shirt showed a generous amount of her generous cleavage and some of her red bra too. She had mid-long brown hair tied in a ponytail that danced as she got closer and wrapped herself around Issei's right arm. Hey, there stud. What is a big boy like you doing with a youngster like her? Come with me, I'm sure I know more than her, she said as her hand reached out and lightly touched Issei's crotch. My. I see that there's not only the muscles that hard big. I can't wait to taste it, she said in a sultry tone. Rias looked at her furiously, ready to move her away even if she had to use strength to. She was stunned when Issei grabbed the woman by the shoulder and pinned her to a wall, leaving her no way to escape. You'll have to find someone else. I'm busy right now and I will not stop what I'm doing for you. Understood? His tone sent shivers down her spine as she started to breathe heavily. How can just his voice hold so much power? I know that he defeated 2 fallen angels, but his voice is so dominating. She thought as she fell on her butt, breathing heavily with her face bright red. There, now be a good girl and leave us alone, Issei told her with a smile. She only nodded before getting on feet and walked away, her legs shaking. Well, Issei, who knew you had so much effect on women? She totally obeyed you, without talking back. It seems so. I didn't know I could do that. Someone in my peerage might have the same reaction, so be careful with that. I'll try to remember. How about we continue to walk? That would indeed be a good idea. My house isn't far away, she answered as they resumed their walk. A few minutes later, the teens arrived at a medium-sized tower near the academy. Rias entered the code on the door, which opened to show a luxurious interior that was similar to the academy. Tell me, Rias, is everywhere you go and spend time is so luxurious? He asked innocently. Rias blushed a little and responded with, Don't tell me that. My brother did this for me. Well, your brother sure wants you to live in a good-looking place. Your family seems to have a lot of resources. I told you before, I'm from a noble family of the underworld, so of course I am quite rich. After all, this tower was made for me in the first place. But we let people live in it. Well, I'm friend with a lil princess am I? He answered while patting her head. She giggled a little before continuing. Come on. I know that you would still be friend with me even if I weren't from a noble clan. That's right, he said with a smile before they both walked in the elevator to the top floor. After a short lift, they arrived in front of 2 marble doors with golden accents and golden handles. Rias took her keys from her purse, put them in the keyhole and opened the doors, revealing a nice-looking flat. The living room was modern. The parquet was made of a light-colored wood with the same kind of furniture as in the ORC and a kitchen that was connected with the living room, allowing easy access to the table. There were also 3 other doors that were closed, but Issei could imagine that there was Rias' bedroom and the bathroom and the toilets. Well, here is where I live. And I did think that your clubhouse was rich-looking, but your flat is even better. Now, what do you want to eat? I would like fish and soup. Could you make that? Of course. I'll get right to it, he said as he looked in the fridge to see what he had. After a quick look around, Issei decided what he would do. Okay. Seems about right. Now on with the cooking. 1 hour and a half later. It's ready, Rias, Issei called after he finished their meal. It consisted of grilled mackerel, cucumber salad, and miso soup. Nothing too special, but it would be enough for the 2 of them. Rias arrived soon after, dressed in a pink negligee that really suited her form and hairs. Thank you, Issei. Itadakimasu, she said before she grabbed her chopsticks and started to eat. Tell me, Rias, when do you start classes tomorrow? At 8 p.m. I'll have to wake soon to be prepared. Do you want me to wake you up? Yup. I'll go with you to the academy and wait for you and your peerage to arrive. Okay. But don't do the same thing as this morning. I don't want to be late, she said while giggling. Issei smiled and responded with, Don't worry. I won't make you wait for me. He reassured her before also digging in his meal. The dinner went rather quietly and fastly, so an hour later they both finished eating and the plates were washed. Issei took his shower first and headed toward Rias' bedroom. He laid in the bed first and waited for Rias to come. She arrived minutes later, wearing a dark negligee. I'm here. I hope you didn't felt too lonely without me, she asked in her playful tone. So lonely I have died. Now, wanna come here and save poor old me? He asked with a smile. She only giggled before she lay in her usual spot, but when she did Issei moved his arm to hold her close. She blushed a little before she let loose and snuggled in his pecs. Why are you holding me, Issei? Dunno. Just wanted to do it. How about we go to sleep now? We'll have to get up early tomorrow. Yes, good night, Issei. Night. This night went quietly for Issei, no flashback nor weird dream. Just a normal night that was really needed. But for Rias, the night was more kinkier. She still had the previous meeting with the human in her mind, and the comment she made on Issei's manhood didn't leave the redhead without some dirty thoughts. She was a creature of sin after all. But she still managed to rest and would be ready for tomorrow. Finally, I again apologize for the time I took, but I really had problems to write this chapter down. Next time, Issei will meet the peerage and I'll cover Asia's arc. All this in one chapter, I think. So yeah, will take me time, but I'll make it. As always, don't hesitate to tell me your ideas or feelings about a chapter. I promise I'll read and will try to answer all reviews. Until next time, Azarta. First, previous, 4 of 12 next.